Hey ninjas, welcome back. If you are new to us and new to this channel, we discuss all types of e-commerce stuff, untapped strategies to grow your business. Today, however, we are doing a little bit something different. We've got so many friends who've been asking us like, hey guys, you just spent a year in Mexico, like give us the highlights, give us the lowlights. What has it been like?
So we have a special guest today.
So we have a special guest, and the guest essentially is both of us are the traffic ninjas.
Two traffic ninjas today.
Two traffic ninjas, yeah. Normally it's just either myself, Silvia, or Kristen. We're husband and wife, by the way. And so today we just thought we're gonna share with you what has it been like running a business from Mexico and living remotely. And you know, one of the things that I'd like to start with, if you don't mind, Kristen, is that there's this buzzword out there, and the buzzword is digital nomads. And I just want to, I guess, start with like, do you feel like you're a digital nomad, Kristen?
I definitely feel that I am not 100% a digital nomad.
Yeah.
100% not.
I am 100% not a digital nomad either. In fact, guys, I always think like the buzzword like digital nomad, I always like imagine, you know, 20-something-year-old person who is like squatting somewhere on a couch or like living in a dorm.
Or blogging from a cafe.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work like that, at least not in my experience.
Doesn't work like that for us. I'm in my 40s. Kristen is soon to be in his 40s. So we feel like we're not the digital nomad generation. So whatever tips and tricks we're sharing here, I just want to like make sure that you guys understand that it's not going to be like, hey, how to sleep in a dorm on a budget on somebody else's couch. Because unfortunately or fortunately, that is not what we do.
It is a gray area though, isn't it? Because on one hand, we do fit the kind of remote working kind of category.
That's true.
Remote working, because we don't have a fixed office that we commute to each day.
That's true. We work from home.
And we kind of set our own hours. And so we are kind of a remote worker.
Yeah, we do like, I guess, live the lifestyle where we choose the hours and, you know,
the location where we're based. But I think the key thing is we do have a fixed base for now.
Yeah.
We're going to be hitting the road soon. But for now, for the last year, we've had a fixed base in Mexico in this beautiful home.
That's
which
true.
has been furnished. We just rocked up with our suitcases and everything was set.
And that by the way is amazing. Like some of you guys don't know, we originally come from Australia, and in Australia it's not so easy to like rent a furnished place.
That's nice, like with nice furniture. Like all of this stuff was here, right?
Yeah.
So we just
I wasn't actually planning for this to be one of the highlights, but I guess let me start with highlights. And I actually would need to now change my highlights a little bit and think my highlight for sure, one of my highlights needs to be the fact that you can just rock up and rent and fully furnish beautiful home. So
just to set the scene, we'll go, I don't know if we mentioned this just now, but the idea of today's video is that we talk about a couple of the highlights and lowlights of living and working in Mexico for a year. So that's your first one?
That's my first one, yeah.
What is it again?
Yeah, so essentially that you can rent a beautiful furnished place that's not going to cost you arm and a leg. By the way, guys, it's a myth that Mexico is like that cheap. I honestly think unless you like have low standards, which we don't, then it's not going to be cheap. In fact, I would say like the rental prices are very much comparable to Australia, even to Sydney.
We have been in a hot tourist market. We're in Playa del Carmen, near Cancun, in Quintana Roo, in Mexico. It's a pretty hot destination, especially for people of North America, Canada. Even true. Europe, it's a hot spot. So
that's true.
It is pricey here at the moment.
Yeah. So but one of the highlights got to be that we can have a beautiful furnished place.
Yes.
And that you can literally just will in your suitcase. We did have to buy monitors though. That's one of the reasons why we also don't identify as digital nomads. Because
we can't work from the laptop. I mean, it sounds crazy, but working from the laptop all day, every day, my eyes like really.
And I need the lighting and the monitor and the keyboard and all of the stuff. Yeah, but anyway, so that was my first highlight. How about your highlight?
My first highlight is the fashion. I'm just joking. It's not the fashion. It's the endless summer. What I mean by fashion is it's endless summer here. It's 28 degrees Celsius every day. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit for our North American friends.
I think it's like in the 80s. Somewhere in the 80s, yeah.
Basically, it's hot and humid every single day. You don't really need to check the weather ever. It's always pretty much the same.
Unless it rains every now and then.
But not so much. And that endless summer means it's t-shirt and shorts every day. It really reduces reduces my need to think about what I'm going to wear. And also for traveling, it's perfect, right? Whenever we go, we've done quite a few trips around Mexico now. I've been very fortunate to have some of those trips. And when we go, someone's like, what do we need to pack? Some t-shirts.
That's true. Once I had to pack a jumper.
Mexico City is probably an exception there because it's high altitude. But I got sick there because it was cold and I just had my t-shirts and shorts.
Yeah.
But I love the endless summer. Like every day is hot. I think after a year, I'm going to enjoy like having seasons again. Like when we move to the next place and it's not hot every single day. But for a year, it's been amazing.
Yeah, I do have to say like that must be pretty good, eh? Like not having to think about like the wardrobe. It's actually true. Like our wardrobe has been really reduced to like few t-shirts, few shorts.
Yes.
And that is amazing. Like not having to carry a jumper, think about it. That brings a lot of freedom to our life, doesn't it?
That's true. It's kind of like the minimalism thing. Like when you go and look at our wardrobe now, it's t-shirt, 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 a couple of pairs of shorts, and
that's true. I've got like 7 t-shirts, and then when some of them start getting tired, I like switch the last one for a new one, and then it's just rotation, and that's
plus a few promotional t-shirts, and then
few Tropic Ninjas t-shirts. Yeah.
Great.
Awesome.
All right, so that's top highlight.
Top highlight. Have you got any lowlight? Shall we mix it up with lowlight?
I think the biggest one for me is like living here in a tourist town. It is a little bit strange, and obviously there's zillions of tourists that are coming through every day, and everywhere we go, people just assume, and I guess I look like a tourist. They assume that
No, you don't look like a gringo at all, Kristen.
So everywhere we go, it's like the walking wallet concept. Like everyone wants you to pay a lot of money for a lot of things. It's like the full price. It's not just the full price. It's like it's the tourist price, right? So everywhere we go, it's like we really have to say, no, vivimos aquí, we live here, like we're locals.
Yeah, we're locals. You're not gonna like mess around with me, buddy. Like I know what the price is.
Like you go to get into a taxi and they say it's like 200 pesos for like a short trip when really the locals pay 50 pesos. So just that kind of walking wallet. Just you're a tourist, so you must be wealthy, you must be loaded. And just like grabbing the tourist dollar, that for me is
that's true.
Is a low line.
That's true. And the thing is also that they kind of tell you all of these like false things that don't really exist. Like for example, tipping culture. Like sure, there is a tipping culture here, but it's different to the US or Canada, and it's really customary to tip 10%, and that's it. Like 10%. It's not like 25% or anything like that. But when you're somewhere as a tourist, then they're going to tell you, in Mexico, it's customary to tip 25%.
Or more
but
if you
want to give more, that's okay.
Yeah.
And you're like, come on, like you're totally full of it.
That's not the real Mexico. That's the tourist Mexico.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
So that's a low light for you. For me, guys, this is going to sound like really snobby, I guess. But for me, one of the low lights has to be coffee. And you are like, what? Like Central American, South American coffee. They grow the beans
here. There's a Chiapas high altitude Mexican coffee beans.
Because there is nothing wrong with the beans. I love the beans. But it's just like how they make the coffee. And I know that many of you are perhaps from North America, and maybe, coffee standards are different there too.
You are a bit of, I say you, we are a bit of
but
coffee snobs,
guys, like the coffee in Australia,
and
like, have you
clarify,
ever had
Sydney
and Melbourne? Yeah,
coffee in particular.
Sydney and Melbourne. Like, have you ever had an amazing flat white? But like an amazing flat white to the point, like where the milk is made to perfection. It's creamy. It's not too frothy. It's not too like overheated. It's not too cold. And it's just like pour through the coffee through the perfect strength. Like
we'll see if we can add some B-roll footage here for the coffee.
Yeah. So I feel like particularly here in Quintana Roo, like that's completely missing. Like yes, there are a couple of really good coffee spots, but you've got to find them and fish for them. And then once you got them, like you stick to them. Like no more we are trying any new coffee place. Like when I see like the see-through glasses, with like the milk all the way here and the coffee pot here, I'm like, I'm not going to those places.
But
because that's just like frothed milk, and then let me put a shot of coffee there afterwards, and I'm like, whoa.
But it's not that it doesn't exist in Mexico. Like we went to Mexico City recently.
That's true.
And they had amazing coffee there.
They had amazing coffee there, and you just stole my next highlight.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You just stole my next highlight, which is good. It's a great segue. So Mexico City, it's got to be one of my highlights. Like it was just incredible. The culture, you know, like both of us really love culture. We love music, we love jazz, we love art. And, you know, here in Quintana Roo, like it's in the summer, that's great, but it's also a tourist market. And so therefore you don't get so much culture. And like in Mexico City, it was just incredible. Like all of these little jazz clubs where you can buy your tickets literally just the day before. And you've got like extremely high quality 5 people bands just like jazzing up in front of you. Oh, that was incredible. And all of these people we met, they were so like, it was so cultured. It really reminded me of New York City.
Yeah, I think it's like the LATAM or Central South American New York City equivalent. And you know that thing we're talking about, like here in Playa del Carmen, in particular Cancun region, where you feel like a tourist all the time. There, I really felt like that kind of gouging didn't happen.
That's
felt.
True.
Like,
that's true. It's more like you're igual. It's more like you're one of them. Like there were a couple of touristy spots where they were literally like this dude who was like selling us something, and we went on like this boat ride. He was like, you guys, you 5 of you, true. You're this price, but those 2 gringos 3 times as much. And we're like, come on, like this is a blatant discrimination.
Gouging. Yeah, that's true.
But
that's true.
Anyway, so there were a couple of things like that, but otherwise Mexico City was just incredible. And you know what, like I felt really safe. Like it's crazy because it's like one of the most dangerous places on earth, but it really is about where you go. And you know, they've got an amazing metro system. So we were taking the trains everywhere. It's literally just 5 pesos. 5 pesos, it's like, how much it is? Like 5 pesos, it's like less than 10 cents, isn't it?
Well, 20 pesos is $1.
20 pesos is $1.
So 10 pesos is 50 cents.
Yeah.
So 5 pesos is
5 cents.
I'm not very good at math.
Yeah. 50 cents, 25 cents. So it's crazy, but the metro system was amazing. Frida Kahlo's house must be one of the most amazing spots in Mexico City.
And not just the house, but the town where they...
Oh, the area around.
Very nice.
You know, it's full of artists. It was just incredible.
Yeah.
What's your next highlight?
My next highlight is going to sound a little bit silly, perhaps, but as an entrepreneur, as a remote worker, as a digital nomad, well, not a digital nomad.
It's a quasi-digital nomad, yeah.
I think it's being here in this time
Luxury
zone.
Luxury
nomad. Being here in this time zone, we're on Eastern time at the moment, same as New York time. Later in the year, it'll be an hour difference, but that's fine. I think the whole idea is that being in that time zone, being able to collaborate with our customers, with our peers, with our coaches, with our mentors, with our all the different people that we collaborate with, being in this time zone has been amazing. Like as Silvia mentioned before, we're normally based in Australia. There's a much bigger time zone gap there, which makes it harder to be productive for the whole business day. Like in Australia, we've got really the morning that overlaps with the US, and then the evening that overlaps with Europe. But here, I feel like it's been great for business development, great for getting to know our customers better, great for working with the people that we work with more closely, and also proximity. Like we've been to the US this year 3 times for conferences, for industry conferences, where we go and learn from the best and sharpen our own skills so that we can bring more value to our customers and our students and the people, our members, the clients that we work with. So that's been really fantastic. Like we went to Florida, we went to Phoenix, we went to Canada. And each of those trips were just a couple of hours by plane instead of like
a 16-hour flight,
right? With jet lag, right?
Yeah, with jet lag, and then you are like for 4 days like, oh, what just happened?
So it sounds strange, like what's the highlight of living in Mexico for a year? But for me, I think for business point of view, like the time zone and proximity has been amazing.
The time zone is one of mine too. Like it's just incredible. It's also the real-time response. You know, when we are typically based in Australia, like there is an overlap, but the overlap is in a completely different type of a day. So people are in a different mindset. You know, some people only respond to emails in the morning. Some people respond to emails in the evening. So having like people are on the same page. So like, you know, even on a Friday, you have Friday on the same day. While when we're in Australia, you know, Friday in the US is Saturday in Australia. So it's kind of like, we always had to like adapt to other people's time zones, but now I feel like, you know, you can get a response in the same day. Like, wow, that never happened before. Yeah. Or you can just like randomly pick up the phone during any time of the day and be like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Also, my family is in Europe, and it's a like relatively small time difference from here to Europe as well. Like right now it's to Central European time zone, it's only 5 hours difference. And in summer it's like 6. So that's pretty cool. Time zone is one of my one too.
Yes.
All right, next highlight.
That was my highlight. The time zone.
Do you have any other highlights?
One more. Yeah, I think last one, just thinking out loud, I would say I haven't lived abroad before. Like I've been fortunate that I've traveled to many places around the world, like over 35 countries, I think it is now, which has been fantastic. But each of those has been a trip. And this is the first time I've lived abroad. So I feel like there's like a level of cultural immersion where you see Mexico on TV or on the internet or on YouTube, but then actually living here is kind of like a cultural immersive experience. And we've made some friends with some locals, like Mexican locals. And like, that's so different to the tourist side of Mexico. So like immersing ourselves with the locals, we're getting to know people, getting to understand the cultures, the cuisine, the food, even learning the language. Like we've been learning Spanish very slowly, but very slowly, very slowly. But our skills, from a year ago to now, like we understand most of what's going on. I can't necessarily speak everything that's going on, but I feel like there's an immersion factor that I've really
like
enjoyed.
living abroad experience.
I feel like it's expanded my horizons and culture.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I do have to say, just secretly, I was a little bit worried about this before moving to Mexico, because I guess I knew it was going to be your first time living abroad, and myself, I moved out of home when I was 18 and lived like in 6 different countries, and studied abroad and lived in all of different countries. And so this was like the first time when, Kristen was also going to go to unknown for the first time, starting from scratch.
And then like when we moved here, people said like, have you been there before?
And we're like, no.
Nah. Do you speak Spanish?
No.
No. Do you know where you're going to live?
Yeah.
No. What else there was?
Yeah. Have you got any friends? And we're like, no. And so I was a little bit worried about how you were going to cope. Because I was like thinking like, part of me in the back of my mind, like my ego was like, is he tough enough to handle this? Like moving to a new country, like it can be intimidating, and it can be intimidating not to understand what people are saying, not to be able to get like the services you need to access,
buying the things that we used to buying at the grocery store.
Going to
the different things, right?
Going to the doctor, accessing the currency, all of these different things. So yeah, but you've done well.
Thanks.
I'm very proud of you. Very, very proud of you. You're no longer, a sheltered kid. You've been
Silvia.
What is it called?
Knighted.
He's been knighted as a living abroad. Awesome. So let's continue. We've got a couple of more lowlights here. So you talked about the walking wallets. I talked about the coffee. Any other lowlights for you?
I think I was just mentioning like the grocery store, like food is one of the things. Like, not that I don't like Mexican food, I do, but we love Mexican food, like the tacos, the burritos, the tortas, the gringas, the quesadillas. It's funny because like maybe this would be shocking to say this to a Mexican person, but I feel like all the ingredients are very, very, very similar across all the dishes, and it's just mixed together differently. So it's kind of like whatever you order is kind of be the same kind of thing. So much so that last week we were in a restaurant and we ordered burritos, and the dude comes back with quesadillas, and we're like, because this happens a lot in Mexico, that you order something, they bring you something else for drinks, everything. It's part of the Mexican experience. And at the end of the day, we're like, it's the same thing wrapped in a different way. Yeah, that could be offensive, but hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's not, because it was delicious. The food was great, but it is quite meat heavy, isn't it? I was trying to get that's the point I was trying to get to, was that it's not so healthy, and finding healthy food here can be a little bit tricky. And when you do find it, it tends to be quite expensive. Like everything tends to be quite meaty, quite sugary, quite. I feel like unhealthy. And again, like depends like what you're used to. If you're North American and or perhaps you're like from the USA and you're used to like lots of the fast food chains and all of that stuff, then maybe food in Mexico is like super healthy comparing to that. But I feel like in Australia we've got access to so much more fresh produce. And maybe that's the thing, that it's so hot in here that it's just not so easy to transport all of the vegetables. Like especially in summertime when you go to the grocery store, supermarket, the fresh stuff does look a bit tight. I think the transportation must be challenging. The logistics, it must be very challenging. And
on that, I've been really missing high quality coconut milk and coconut products.
It's very specific, Silvia.
I know it's super specific, but the thing is that like there is many coconut trees in Mexico, but from what we found out from our Mexican friends that coconut trees have actually been brought here through the colonial times, and they're not native to the native Mayan or Aztecs, and therefore it's not part of the culture. So all of the coconut milk that you find here is actually imported from Thailand. And
lots of chemicals for some reason.
And so many chemicals.
I don't understand why.
I don't understand why either. And it's really expensive. Like in Australia, you can get like pure coconut milk for like less than $1.
Yeah, or even $1, let's say.
Even $1 with the inflation, because we haven't been there for a year. So I guess so. Okay, cool. So one of my lowlights.
Yes. Tell us, Silvia.
One of my lowlights has to be a lot of rubbish or trash in North American English.
Yeah. Sign of a developing country.
Sign of a developing country. So this is one of the things that once you're here, you kind of understand that it makes sense. It's a developing country. So there is going to be like trash around, when there is a storm and all of that stuff washes out to the beach. Like that's when you realize that even if you like keep picking all day, sometimes we like pick the trash, it's still not enough. So that's when you realize, okay, it is a developing country, but it is quite disturbing because it makes you feel that, okay, the amount of people who live here plus the amount of tourism, surely that's not good for the planet. And unfortunately, I obviously have no suggestions, no ideas on the solutions. So I think we all contribute to that.
And like one of the things we've seen is like the recycling. Like it is good that they do sort things for recycling, but then what happens with that stuff?
We don't know.
No one knows.
Yeah, no one knows. That's kind of
the
true.
Compost and the trash go in the same bin. So what really happens?
What really happens?
No one knows.
Don't know.
Yeah.
So, which brings me to my next lowlight.
Yes.
Or my last one, shall I say?
Yes.
And that's commercial.
We need to wrap this up soon.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long video.
And that's commercial beaches. So the beaches are really commercial here, which is something I never expected. Maybe in the US, people are used to it. I don't know. But essentially, officially, beach belongs to everyone because it cannot be commercial. However, you can buy the land just before the beach and put a fence around it and not let anybody through unless people pay. And this is kind of crazy because so much so that it resulted into a whole strip, for example, in Tulum. Like Tulum is kind of like quite up and coming fancy these days.
Spiritual center of Mexico.
Spiritual center, but really it's not. But that's just my opinion. And essentially you cannot go in Tulum to the beach at all unless you pay $60 to a beach club to let you through.
Or a hefty fee.
Or a hefty fee, because officially the beach is free, you just cannot get to it. And if it's like a property, literally there is no public pathway, that I find is really, really unfair to Mexican people because it's their beach. And, again, coming from Australia, that's one of like the base principles in Australia that beach is free. It's for everyone. It belongs to all of us. It's the nature. It's not to be commercialized. Yeah. And so that's one of our deep values, I guess. Yeah. So seeing it here that like, even beach is commercial, that is
a developing country that like you can see how people sell the land to get the money. So, I don't agree with it, but I kind of understand how it happens. So there is probably a lot of corruption. We don't know. That's part that we don't know so much about, but there's plenty of documentaries about that. So to wrap this up,
any lowlights for you?
My last one is, I'm just looking at my notes here. My last one is being, I imagine Playa del Carmen to be like a beautiful coastal town with the
Caribbean, guys.
Caribbean
like you see kind of like in the movies, Aruba, Jamaica.
Yeah.
Oh, I want.
But in reality, it was a small coastal town like maybe 30 years ago, but it's been like hyper developed and hyper grown and super urban. And so when we got here, it's like, wow, like where are the trees?
Where is the nature?
Where's the park? Where's the grass? Where's the...
Even the public beach, when you do finally access public beach, it doesn't have any trees. It's just like blasting heat.
Yeah.
So
I feel like
face.
One of the lowlights for me, and it's not just here in Playa del Carmen, I think we've been fortunate to travel around Mexico and we've seen it kind of a little bit of a pattern, is the urbanization. So a lot of concrete, a lot of roads, a lot of knock down the forest and build something. It's very urban.
That's
much
true.
more urban than I expected it to be, and a lot more urban than my Caribbean dream or Caribbean imagination.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is, and there's been development, and people have created and built things out of it, and there's shops and things like that, but it's not natural.
Yeah, and again, could be what we're
looking.
used to, right? Because depends, I guess, what part of the world you're coming from. Because again, coming from Australia, you know, in the Pacific, there is many fewer people, so the nature is much more abundant.
Yes. We've been spoiled living in Australia.
Living in Australia, and you know, close proximity to Fiji. So once you've been to Fiji, you know, you've been to paradise.
Yeah.
But it is true that after living here for a while, we realized that the reason, I think one of the reasons why it's so urbanized, it's because you either urbanize it or it goes wild and it's a wild bush. It's not like a maintained nice forest or a park. It is just impossible in this climate.
Like
so
thick
jungle, it either goes
inaccessible.
like inaccessible thick jungle, or you have to just completely get rid of it and it's just urban street.
Yeah, and dusty streets, and not necessarily well maintained streets.
Yes. Last question.
Yes.
On a scale 0 to 10, how would you recommend living in Mexico for a year?
I think living in Mexico has been fantastic. I would definitely recommend it if you have the option or the ability to do it. I think for me, like 1 year's been amazing, and I'm happy that we're moving on and seeing something different. But it's been great. So
scale 0 to 10.
Scale 0 to 10. I'm gonna say.
Let's get him commit
on the spot. 8.
8. Perfect. Yeah. For me, for sure, it's good to be 8 or 9 as well. Like it's been amazing. I think a year has been just enough. It's been amazing because obviously we run a business, so we work quite a bit too. So that 1 year has given us enough time to, obviously we can't be on holiday every day. So to be like productive and then, you know, be immersed in the culture in the evenings. Because it's really about what do you do after work and what do you do in the morning, right?
Yes. And then, what you eat.
And then you want to have that productive stretch in between. You know, the Wi-Fi is great here as well. The proximity to airports and to the world is great.
I think the infrastructure here in Playa del Carmen in particular has been really good. Like, as you said, like infrastructure, airports, taxis.
Exactly. And in general, infrastructure in Mexico has been actually really great. Like domestic flights have been amazing.
The bus system here is ADO, is amazing. It's great.
Bus network is amazing.
Excellent.
We actually have not owned a car for a year.
That's been amazing.
We've been pushbacking everywhere, which has been...
Dos bicicletas,
which has been really, really cool. And then domestic flights are really super accessible, easy.
Yes. Cool.
Awesome. So guys, let us know, comment below, let us know, are you interested in living in Mexico or perhaps elsewhere with your online business? Do let us know. Do you want to try it out?
What questions have you got about Mexico or living abroad or remote working or being a digital nomad?
Or being a not digital nomads, being a luxury nomad or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you guys for watching.
Thanks for the chat.
Awesome to have you here, and we'll talk to you
see you in the next video. Bye.